Well, my name is Sammy Steele. I am the Business Retention and Expansion Coordinator with Midland Development Corporation. And we are so excited to have you here at our second Founders Blend event. We started these last month, and it's going to be the second Wednesday of every month. And we started it because I meet routinely with about a dozen or so local businesses each month. And I've been meeting with them for a little over a year. And when I meet with these businesses, I ask them, what is it like running a business in Midland? And I got a lot of feedback. There's a lot that goes into that question. But a big takeaway was, it's a lot of work to be an entrepreneur. And sometimes it feels kind of lonely to navigate it by yourself because it feels like you're navigating it by yourself. But I want you to just take a second here, drink a sip of your coffee, and look around you, because raise your hand if you are a small business owner here. So now take a look at those people raising their hands, bring them back up, and know that the people raising their hands, they have probably in one way or another experienced the same challenges and struggles and questioning, do I just wave the white flag, as you have. So I want you, in this next hour here, we're gonna hear from two local businesses, and I want you to be vulnerable, because that's where we grow, and that's where we learn, and that's where we continue to just grow our business community here in Midland. So Founders Blend was started because people needed that fellowship and that community as entrepreneurs. You know, you need a village, and so let this be your village, and you're gonna get as much out of it as you put into it. And so ask questions, feel free to, don't be shy in asking questions, and take advantage of this next hour here. Before we get started, I do want to thank a few people. You know, the whole reason we're doing this is to create just a unique community of startup founders, investors, other entrepreneurs, small business leaders in the community. But it was all blended together thanks to Midland Development Corporation, Second Story for letting us utilize this space, UT, Permian Basin, Midland Village, Cogdale Center, Cogdale Learning Center, along with the Midland Chamber of Commerce. So all of these different entities, and BAM Entrepreneurial Center, all of these different entities work with small businesses day in and day out. And we want this to just be a free and open opportunity to the public to just grow our business community here. And then I also want to thank, I see some of you chowing down on some bagels here. That's thanks to Tall City Bagel for donating our bagels. And then also Far West Coffee for the coffee. And then Fast Sign helped to donate some of our signage. And then Community National Bank for also donating. I'm going to introduce our first business. Kind of, if you haven't been here before, who was here last month? Okay, so you kind of got the gist of it. And we're going to be growing and developing as we go. But we'll have two business presenters. They'll have a short presentation, and then that will be Q&A. So as you're hearing them present about their business, be thinking of a question that you can ask them. Okay, well, our first business I did a BRE visit with about a year ago, and it is called West Texas Wood Shop. And the Thomases, John and Misty Thomas, they started West Texas Wood Shop in November of 2021. And when you think of West Texas, you don't often think of trees or wood, but man, they have quite the impressive shop there. So I will let you guys take the floor. We're excited to learn.
Thank you all for being here this morning. I know as a business owner, it's really tough sometimes to set time aside for development, but it's one of the best things you can actually do to grow your business. A little bit about myself. So we've opened West Texas Wood Shop. My business partners, they've got a lot of stuff going there on their way here as well. So able to open this with two of my best friends, Chet and Jolynn Gray, and then my best friend of all time, my wife, is how we open this business. A little bit about myself personally and where I come from is my day job. This one, of course, is full-time as well, right? As we know, it's more than full-time. But on my day job as well, I'm a national project manager and business development guy for a top 10 company. So I end up all their little businesses all their little aspects that touch small business, I end up actually helping them develop and actually build out even additional small businesses inside the business. So a lot of my background's more than just the wood shop. So I say that as you guys have that coaster, as you guys are going through, feel free and reach out to me. A lot of different things from market development, everything like that I do on my day job. I have a little more background I'm going to present today. So to throw that out there. So we'll go to the next screen there real quick, and we'll start out a little bit with where we started. So basically what we decided is my best friend and I, Chet, we love doing woodworking. It's been our hobby for a long time, right? So we end up doing a ton of big projects together, working through a lot of stuff. And we noticed in Midland, you really can't get the things that you need. There is absolutely no place to buy a lot of the hardwoods, the big slabs, all of that type of stuff. So we opened it up, and at our shop, some people will tell you equipment-wise, we went a little insane. So we've got a big sawmill, we've got a kiln to dry the wood, we've got everything from large format, computerized routers that we can put big, huge 5-foot by 12-foot tables on to do that, and all the big equipment we need. We also take that equipment, and for other small business owners that are looking to do that but don't have access to those tools, we have machine services that we actually help them out to make sure they can take care of what they need that way. So that's one of the services we found in Midland that was really missing, and access to quality hardwoods and things people need. So that's why we started that. We also noticed in Midland, my wife will tell you, there's not a lot of stuff for date nights, things to actually do. So that's where we started our classes. As you can see on the entry, you saw some of the serving trays that we do. That is one of the classes we provide where we actually teach people how to do those hands-on, and they can come in and learn it. We get a lot of couples that come in together, because there's nothing to do, right? I mean, you try and go out there. What are you going to do in Midland, right? And do the same thing over and over again. My wife and I have been married for 28 years, so we have to be creative on date night. Otherwise, it gets rather interesting on that way, right? So with that being said, that's one of the things we love doing there. And then we take it all the way up to fully custom projects. We get people coming to us that have, for example, the table that you see there. We had a customer come in that had 3 different pictures from architectural magazines. Nobody locally could build it for them. They're like, can you build this? We want a 5-foot by 12-foot dining table. Can you build it for us? So we take it from start to finish, design the metal base, have the metal base custom made, and make everything from that point up. So pretty much a lot of the big stuff we can do. We can take whatever's in someone's imagination and then go from that point up. So we end up having that as well. So with that said, that sort of introduces a little bit about us. And I apologize, I forgot to take the little yellow highlight off of our mission. That'll probably be on each slide. But we'll jump to the next slide here, where we go into that. Some of the things that we've learned as a small business, and I've learned through my day job, is anytime you can collaborate with other businesses, it helps you grow and it helps you grow faster. So as you can see, these are some of the different businesses we've collaborated with, helped out with, done projects for. And as we've grown, they've actually taken personal interest in our business and helping us as well. So I think as a small business owner, that's really key to helping your business grow, is make sure everybody that you know and touch is invested in you and wants to see you grow as well. So as you look through that, we've done some things like we just finished up at the I-20 Nature Preserve. If you go out there, they've got one of those cool little free libraries now where you can leave a book, take a book. That was a project they wanted us to go through with them as well. CMB Bank is one that's really stepped out. Normally, big banks are going out and they're buying projects from, bigger companies that do things, but they wanted to invest local. So they actually came to us to have their conference tables done inside their new Odessa location. There's a coffee table in there, and there's some wall art that we created. And then in their Lubbock, we'll have their 2 big conference tables that were built by us that'll go in there as well. So as you see, there's some different things like that. We've got Midland Meco has been a great partner. They've reached out to us to build a lot of their cutting boards. And as you can see, as I say all these type of things, keep in mind, this wasn't my original business plan to do all these things. We're going to retail and sell the wood, but then we found even more need in Midland to continue to grow it. So that's where we connect with those. And Basin Graphics is also a great partner we work with, and Redbeard Capital as well has referred quite a few to us. So there's a lot of different things that I've learned as a small business owner and in my day job that actually really connect the fact that the more people you connect with and the more people that are invested in you, the better success you'll have. And keep in mind, we opened amidst COVID, and the one thing I didn't mention is a week after we opened, Midland City and Midland County gave us a wonderful gift. They tore up their road in front of our business, and it was torn up for about 8 months. So our first 8 months, our retail section was extremely difficult to get to, right? So that's where you expand, you grow, and it was good to have these people invest. We'll go ahead and run to the next slide here, where we're headed from here. So as we look at different things, we continue to evaluate what do we need in the Permian Basin. So we're going to continue to expand. In Permian Basin, as you look as far as like cabinet builders, when you're having something custom made, there's not really a lot of places locally where they can get really high quality product. So we're starting to bring that product in for them, to have that for them as well. They can have that. My business partner, Chet's here. I call him the procurement guy because he is great at finding everything. So one of the new things he worked out and figured out was how to actually import beautiful slabs from Costa Rica. So that was our first shot at directly importing straight to us from Costa Rica, big, huge slabs that aren't available. The only other place they're available in Texas is in Dallas in one spot. So we've got some of those that come in that are really beautiful and a good expansion there. And then of course, we grow into, the wholesale of products of different businesses, everything we can figure out how to do. If there's a small business owner that's trying to create something, a maker that wants to do, we try and figure out a way to give them something that's actually cuts out a couple steps and makes it easier for them to sell more and work through a little faster. And of course, we put on there, it's just like all of us, right? Current economic situation. I don't know if there's anybody in here that'll say the economic situation right now is really helping their business boom. There's different things you have to adjust as you get into those different economic things. Those are always things that we're working as well. And, we've got our clients. Weird part for us, as the oil field gets busy, our main clients get busier. So that a lot of the oil field workers that are doing a lot of the woodworking, they don't have all the spare time. So we have to figure out how do we make it easier for them to continue to do the things they want to do on the side. That gives you a little bit about us. We'll go to the next one that just sort of shows you where you can find us on that. But that gives you just a little bit about our business, and we really appreciate being able to come here. And Sammy, thank you for introducing us to this and doing the spotlight on us and all that fun stuff.
Well, thank you for signing up for this. You ask small business owners who do this all the time in, a retail space or a storefront, and then you ask them to do it in a presentation form, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know about that." I'm like, "Isn't this what you do?" Yeah. So we really appreciate your time. Okay, you touched on a few things I wanted to ask about. That business-to-business partnership here in Midland, it seems to be crucial. Almost when it comes to marketing too, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours a little bit. How did you learn what those business to business, or what have you seen from those business to business partnerships?
Well, a lot of it is small business owners are usually invested in small business owners, right? So if you can get invested with the more small business owners you're invested with, then they actually share and continue to grow and find ways to do it. So basically the way we looked at it, a few of ours, we tried to figure out what are their needs, how could we fit their needs, and go from there. Some of the things are as simple as Midland Mico, for example. I made a cutting board with their logo without them asking and went and dropped it off to the owner and said, "Hey, here you go. We can help you out with this." And it started a relationship with them. Same thing with Payton Graphics. We started out buying T-shirts, buying our logo stuff from them, and then I started noticing things in there, and I'm like, "Where are you getting that from? We can actually do that here locally. You don't have to go source that someplace else." Was able to start that relationship. So it's almost like one thing I've learned over the years is you need to always have your head on a swivel, per se, when you're working in a small business. You need to always be able to see, no matter where you walk into, what can that small business, how can you connect with them? What's the way that you can actually help them grow? How can they help you grow? And then make that connection, and then just keep that connection as long as you can. That's basically, Permian Basin is definitely, I want to say good old boys club, but it's definitely who knows who and shaking hands and knowing who to talk to, right? So having those connections is definitely important to keep yourself afloat.
Right. And then also, this wasn't your full-time job from the get-go. It started as a hobby, and then eventually became more and more part of your day. How did you balance, your daytime job versus your small business?
Yeah, and this one is where you come in even more partnerships, right? So I've got the great partners that I've already introduced that help me start the business, right? That we're co-ownership in it, that help grow it a lot and help do a lot of aspects of it, right? Then I started looking at what are some of the makers, what are some of the builders who I work with? First aspect we got into, for example, finishing some of these big tables. I still have my Monday through Friday job I'm still doing now, right? That I do from the shop and can take conference calls there and take care of it while my wife helps customers as they come in, right? I learned that finishing some of these big tables, it takes a lot of work. So I found one of our makers that was meticulous at finishing tables. So I got it to a certain point, figured out, here's a great partnership. You can have access to my shop. I'm going to actually sub some of this stuff out to you, and you can finish out the stuff. So I helped him grow his small business, and I brought him in. Found another one that she's amazing. She's an amazing woodworker. She knows exactly what she's doing. I was like, okay, great. I'm going to hire you, bring you in, and you're going to actually do a lot of the stuff. So it's finding the right people at that point, which, as a small business owner, having the right people to help you is also extremely crucial. So that's what's helped me be able to balance everything.
Not taking it all on.
Yeah, you can't take it all on at once yourself. You're going to sink if you do that.
Right. Well, does anyone have any questions for John here?
Are your clients folks who are leasing your space and your equipment, or are your clients more like consumers? I'm a little confused.
So we sort of help all of it, right? So we go from the consumer that just comes in and says, I want this table built. We go from that point to someone that's working in their shop in their garage that just needs the supplies. We have those for them. And then we also have our equipment that they can bring it off, and then we'll do some of the bigger work for them. Like a lot of people in their shops, they don't have access to a big 51-inch wide sander to run a dining table. We do. So they can bring it to us, and we can say, okay, take us this amount of time, this is what it'll cost. We'll be able to run it through for you. So we're trying to open that gamut completely across there. And then if we can't get to the clients who want like a table built or special different projects, we actually know a lot of the makers. We can say, okay, here's the perfect person you can go to get that taken care of. And then they come buy the product from us to finish that project. So does that answer it for you? Okay.
Any other questions here? Yep, here in the front.
Is all your work custom? Are you thinking about maybe doing more factory type work?
So for me, honestly, if myself or my business partner Chet are touching something, we love the creative side. So we love full custom. So we love to be able to dive in, and the challenge of somebody saying, everyone else says no, they can't build this. Okay, great. We'll make it for you. We love that challenge. So we love do that. Now, the other part of it is that part comes into what I was talking about, some of the wholesale, figuring out different things like that is, can we go into a little bit more full production on some more basic items that are more readily available for people to come into, that's not a full custom project that's going to go into it. So we're constantly looking into things like that. Right now, every one of the projects we do is 100% custom. Meet with the clients, we find out exactly what they want and drive to get it exactly like they want it.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the physical space that you occupy, and kind of at what point did you decide you needed some physical space to occupy for the business, and kind of how you landed on the space that you're in? Like what was it that drew you to that space?
Well, the beauty of it is location's great, but I will tell you the best part of it is my business partner already owned the space. So he was leasing it out to a different company. And unfortunately, that business owner had suffered some cancer and passed away. So their business closed down. So that became the perfect time for us to start looking at, okay, let's stop playing around in the backyard shop and let's expand out. One of the reasons that we moved our biggest shop there is the shop we were working in before couldn't handle the power. Midland City couldn't get us. Our shop has a 1,400 amp electrical service. Midland City couldn't get that to us where we were at before. We had to get that there because all of our machinery is all three-phase, pulls a lot of power. That's what sort of drew us to that. And then being right there on industrial, right close to the loop there, put us in a perfect location for a lot of people from all over Permian Basin.
So I have maybe a more boring question, but you say you're working a job and then you're also running a business. Do you find time, or how do you find time to do there's a whole bunch of minutia that comes along with being a business owner, from accounting and bookkeeping, taxes, marketing, payroll, sales, all the stuff. Like,
Yeah.
How do you do that in addition to having a job?
That's part of the balance of finding the right people, right? So I will tell you, my wife, she does not like doing accounting. She does not like doing books. She does not like doing all that type of stuff. But because we're dedicated together, she's taken that on. So she 100% is, we're sort of self-taught, both of us. She went in and dove into QuickBooks, everything for herself to try and figure out how to run it, run payroll, all that type of stuff. And she does an amazing job with that side of it. Like I said, my business partner, Chet, he'll go through on the procurement side. So if I need something, I don't have to go chase down a lot of stuff. I give Chet a call and I'm like, hey, can you track this down for me? Or he'll come up with these amazing ideas like, let's import slabs from Costa Rica. I'm like, okay, cool, let's do that, right? So it's having having the right people in the right spot. The other funny thing I found in my day job is anybody that works for you, you need to empower them to be able to help you grow your business. And by that, for example, Macy, that's an incredible maker that works for us, any idea she has to actually expand the business or grow it, I'm like, okay, cool, let's look into it. How do we dive into that? How do we make that happen? So it's just empowering everybody around you. And sales comes into that business to business, right? So a lot of my growth in sales has came from the business owners I've connected with, and they refer other people to me, and they refer other people, and they refer other people. So that helps the sales side, so I'm not have to constantly go drive and spend all that time trying to find people, right?
What kind of financing you needed to put together in order to start and grow the business?
Well, the nice part is with that goes back to partnerships, right? So there's a couple of things that we finance, machineries, things like that, to help grow the credit of the tax ID, all that type of stuff, to open that up. But for the most part, the beauty for us, it might be a little different, is a lot of these tools and things we were already diving deep into, and we had before we even opened, right? So because it was stuff we wanted to do, and the location we already had, so it made it a little easier on us to be able to actually position that for our company. But what I found on the other side of things on the day job is a lot of that comes to finding out the right connections, having the right business plan to be able to justify your growth, and understanding your market extremely well. That way you can actually go in, and when you're having those conversations with people, it really helps to find different things. And a lot of times, some of the financing we did on some of the machinery, it came as simple as going to the person who wanted to sell us the machinery and saying, okay, great, set us up with what's the best financing option? Where's the options to go from there, and researching there. But that's one right now we're pretty lucky on, that we've got a lot of that stuff set up front, so we didn't really have to go acquire a bunch at this point yet as far as investment.
Any other questions here for John? Well, John, I'll close this out by asking one more question. You know, what has surprised you about being or what would you say you weren't expecting when it comes to the challenges of running a business in Midland, in particular in Midland?
Yeah. So for me, my day job, I can put a project together, I can start a new aspect of the business, and it can execute flawlessly, and I can, from start to finish, it goes exactly as I want it to. Small business, it ended up being a little different. I think my wife will tell you, we're in Roman numerals on our business plan right now, in a year and a half in. And it's been what surprised me is how constant the adjustment has had to been to which aspect of the business are we going to chase, which aspect of the business is actually going to pay the bills this month, and go from that. I mean, it started right off the bat. Like I said, when they tore up the road in front of us, our main business we were opening was retail. At that point, retail was closed down. So at that point, how do we then take over? So it's the thing that surprised me probably the most is how many different iterations of my business plan, and how fluid that's had to been to be a small business owner compared to in my corporate America life, where I'm actually more easy to say, here's my business plan, and it executed just like I planned it. That's probably the biggest one I've been surprised and had to learn from. You got to be ready for every curve with possible change in your business plan.
Just, the best entrepreneurs are the best pivoters.
Yes.
Pivot from one thing to the next. Well, John, we really appreciate your time. Feel free to ask John questions after this meeting here. Follow them on social media. And go and visit his store. I mean, once you walk in there, it is just shocking to see the material and the equipment that he has right here in our backyard.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, our next business presenter, he hardly needs an introduction. He's kind of shy, so I've heard. You probably haven't even heard of him. Patrick Payton, our former mayor here. Now, Patrick, he runs the Payton Group, which is a consulting firm. And Patrick, we're excited to, tables have turned here. I used to have him in the hot seat when I did the news, and he'd see me come up and he'd be taking a deep breath. Well, now this is a different hot seat here. We're happy to have you.
All right, great. Ready to go?
Yep, ready to go. Floor is yours.
Well, it's good to be with you. It's probably, let me begin with what the Payton Group is and how we got here, because it's kind of unfair to some of you who have a business plan and it's been your dream. I really developed the Payton Group over 30 years, to be honest with you. I started my career at the age of 22. I was in sales and marketing in the restaurant industry and the food supply business, and that led to some life changes that brought us to Midland to start this little thing called Stonegate Fellowship, and that lasted about 20 years. And what happened through that whole period, and hopefully this will help you in some regards, was I was building relationships with people for 30 years. I was building my network for 30 years. I was helping people for 30 years. Everything that I did was about helping customers and helping consumers get to where they wanted to be. When you think about, I had a friend of mine tell me, he said, when I left the food business and went into the church business, he said, you've never left sales. You're still selling something. You're selling Jesus every Sunday. So I really just kept trying to work with people. And the mantra that I had for the longest time was we want to help people become everything they're designed, called, and gifted to be. And so when I began my transition out of Stonegate Fellowship, I already had people who were calling me and saying, hey, could I just spend some time with you? Could I just sit next to you and sit across from you and talk about my business and talk about my life? And then that gave really the entree for me to say, well, maybe I should consider going into this consulting and into this coaching arena. I kind of have I don't really like to be referred to as a corporate coach. I think the coaching industry is going through a lot of change and a lot of upheaval because there's a lot of people who think they want to be a coach and think they qualify to be a coach. And then they go take a certification class to be a coach, but they've never played the sport, if you understand what I mean by that. And so they've got a certification and they can sit across from you and give you an Enneagram test or give you some other kind of personality test and explain why you're such a jerk or whatever the issue might be. But the reality is they can't coach you. And so we're really kind of cautious about that. And we're really kind of cautious about the word consulting as well. But as people began approaching me and saying, hey, could we just spend some time with you? That's turned into us consulting right around about $5 billion worth of companies right now. I'm in Dallas. I'm in Oklahoma quite a bit. I'm here in Midland. I'm all over, serve on a board in New York City and then another board, and spend a lot of time with people. But what my practice consists of, well, I take that back. We do a little private equity over here. And then if you've lived in Midland at least as long as I have, you have some oil and gas interests you're involved in as well. But most of my business is the word I hate, the coaching, the consulting. But what I do is very different in the sense that if someone calls me and says, we want you to work with our company, and I do very little one-on-one. Like if some of you came up to me, just to be really blunt with you, and said, hey, I want you to coach me. As arrogant as this is gonna sound, there's probably a really good chance you can't afford me. And that's the way I've designed my business. I work with a lot of corporate clients, and I know what I think my time is worth and what you're gonna demand of my time. And so I ask for it, which is why I also have to deliver. I have to return an investment, a return on their investment, which is hard to measure at times. But you also have to be willing to spend a long time with me. And what that means is I usually spend anywhere from 3 to 4 months with a client just watching them. And that's all I'll do is I'll go have conversations with them. I'll go to their board meetings. I'll go to their executive management team meetings. I'll go visit all their locations. And for most of the clients that I have, I spend 3 to 4 months investigating the business, watching the culture to see what's happening. And then we start working with individual employees within the company that are either part of the solution or have been part of the problem that need to be a part of the solution. And then we spend this very long relationship working on becoming better as an organization. Nearly every client we've had for, Jesse, 3.5 years probably. And by the way, Jessie Russo works for us. And if she didn't work for us, I wouldn't be standing here. That's a reality. I probably wouldn't even have a business. But the fact is, she does a great job, keeps my world in order. And that consists of, I think at any given time, we're rotating through anywhere from 50 to 60 people I'm coaching. Is probably higher than that. So we're rotating through that on a quarterly basis along with travel. So it's a different industry. The one that I'm in, what I oftentimes equate it to is I love to play golf. And I don't know if anybody else in here loves to play golf. You're like, we're small business owners. We don't have time to play golf. One of the reasons I've sort of created the business I have over earning this opportunity over the last 30 years is I like to have my own time. And so I pretty much have my business where I want it as far as revenue. So if I take on new clients, I'm usually letting go of another client and not just adding and adding and adding, because I don't want to add another coach. I am the product, so to speak. Someone asked me one time, would you hire somebody? And I said, I really can't, because if I hire somebody in the Payton Group to go and consult, then I have to know if you have 30 years of experience you're going to bring to bear, and you're not going to embarrass what I've built over the last, 35 years now. But what I do is I work with a lot of CEOs, a lot of board chairmen, a lot of presidents of companies, founders of companies. And I was talking about how I play golf. If you watch any PGA event, or if you like the Live Golf Tour, if you know what that is, if you watch these professional golfers, they're the best in the world, absolutely the best in the world. And before they go out and play, they go warm up. If this is falling on deaf ears because none of you play golf, just stay with me here. And so they're going to practice their swing and hit the ball on this range before they go out to play. Standing behind every single one of these world-class golfers is a coach. And none of their coaches can beat them at what they do. None of them can. Like Tiger Woods has a coach. Phil Mickelson has a coach. Rory McIlroy has a coach. If none of those names mean anything to you, at least Tiger Woods probably does. And the coach sits behind them and just watches them. And if you watch, because I'll go to the practice range whenever I go to these tournaments, occasionally the coach will say something to the player. Some of them even have a putting coach that just watches them. And they'll say something like, you might want to move your thumb. And that coach will get paid a percentage of earnings for saying you should move your thumb. That's what I do. I specialize in finding 1 degree of excellence you can change, so that'll change your business. I never roll in and do a whole new business plan. I'm not McKinsey or the Boston Consulting Group. I stand behind leaders and entrepreneurs and boards of directors and C-suites, and I watch them. And every once in a while, we'll sit down. I'll have another meeting this Thursday with another client, and I'll keep a list. And when they ask, because one of the deals I make with them is we have to be brutally honest, and you have to allow me to be brutally honest with you. And I'll sit down and say, you should probably change this, or you should adopt this. And they're paying well for me to watch, for me to listen, and for me to be honest. Because the reality is the customers that I have, most of their employees are afraid to be honest with them. And so I'm that conduit. I'll give you a crazy example. I went to go see a client in Oklahoma City not long ago, and I pulled up to the factory. It's this huge factory. It takes up all these acres. And out front, they have flagpoles, like any good old American business is going to have. And I was there for about a week. And not one day were the flags up. So I called the owner of the company. And I said, I have a suggestion for you. Get your freaking American flag hung in front of the building. And they did. You say, how important is that? Well, you know how important it is in this business that they were in, very blue-collar business. Blue-collar people like to see the American flag in front of their blue-collar tractor-building organization. It's simple things like that. Not long after that, I was called by another company, and they said, can you go to such and such city? Can you just walk in and see how our people greet you? I said, sure. So I go to another city, I walk into the place, and I make up this, don't put this online, I make up this lie about who I am, and I walk in, and I knew who the guy was who was running that shop, and I put my card down. I knew he wasn't in there. I knew he was because I already texted to see if he was there. And I said, hey, tell so-and-so I'm going to be here. And I just watched to see how they would greet me. I became a very expensive, mysterious shopper. And the only suggestion I had, because everyone was very nice, they'd done a great job of training everybody, but this will also give you an idea of who some of my clients are. The young man sitting at the front who greeted me had a big spit cup sitting right there on the counter. So what did I do? I called the organization. I said, we might want to work on the location of spit cups. And it goes all the way from that to having clients call me and saying, we're having a meeting coming up. Can I run the slideshow by you? And can I run my speech by you? And can you help me with this? All the way down to we're dealing with growth issues with someone we may have to discipline or someone we want to promote. And I'll sit down and spend time with them. And that's really what we do at the Payton Group. We try to find the 1 degree that makes you better. And the same thing I did when I was preaching, which was trying to help people become everything they're designed, called, and gifted to be, is exactly what we try to do at the Payton Group. So with that, take any questions.
Well, thank you, Patrick. I mean, retention is a difficult issue here in Midland. I mean, Workforce is an issue across the country, but in particular out here in the oil field. And more often, I am hearing from entrepreneurs, managing people is hard. But you said something before the meeting that stuck with me. Management and leadership are not the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you explain that?
Well, I have a lot of people who call and say, will you help me be a better leader? Which I will then say, well, tell me how you manage your life. Because leadership in today's world is this very high, sort of lofty, I want to be a leader. I want to be a leader. And there's leadership books everywhere. So I'll sit down and I'll ask them, tell me how you're managing your family. Tell me how you're managing your finances. Tell me how you're managing your personal and your mental and emotional fitness. Tell me how you're managing things around you, how you're taking care of things, how you're managing your budget, and if you're earning the right to be seen as a leader. Many of you know who John Maxwell is, and we love all the phrases he uses, but he uses a phrase that says, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Have you ever heard him say that? He claims it as his own, but it's not. He stole it from a guy named J. Oswald Sanders, who said it in the 60s. And J. Oswald Sanders was the one who originally said, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. But how do you gain influence? You gain influence by the way you manage your life and take care of the things around you. Influence is earned. And by the way, everyone in this room is a leader because you are influencing everyone around you. Everywhere you go, you're an influence. How you treat the person at Kent Quick when you pay, when you go inside. How you take care of the waiter or waitress. How you take care of your employees by the way you smile or you don't smile. Or whether you treat their families well. All of that is leadership because it's influence. But your leadership grows as your influence grows, and your influence is more impactful when you become a good manager of the issues you have in life that you have to take care of. Let me put it a different way. A good steward of the things you have in life. And so what I've been spending a lot of time with these people that I go and coach is they all want me to go talk at a leadership class. And I went last week to Oklahoma to go talk to a leadership group, and they were so excited. And they said, Patrick's going to talk to us about leadership. And my opening line to this group of what they called the next generation of leaders in their company was I said, I hate the word leadership. And I said, so today we're going to talk about management. And we talked about management. We talked about managing your life. And I told every single leader in that group, I said, if you're not personally managing all the aspects of your life in the pursuit of personal excellence, then eventually who you are will show up in the way you do your job. And you will not be the leader you think you are, but you'll have read all the books that make you believe you're a great leader. So manage well and earn leadership. Stop looking for leadership, manage well. So that's how we've dealt with that.
And part of that management is understanding the importance of making that investment. And I think for a lot of the entrepreneurs here, aside from the capital expense, it sounds like with the Payton Group, that investment has to be worth it.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, but I have built my business model on helping corporate clients. If I was going to go into the one-on-one business, it'd be a different model for me, and I'd have to find 200 to 300 clients to be rotating through all the time to meet the revenue goals that I have. I can meet the revenue goals I have the way I've built my business model. That's not the way you can build yours, or you might want to build yours, but that's where we are. And so for us to do anything different, I'd have to change my business model, but I've built my model on a particular revenue I want to have and a revenue stream I want to have, and also on the freedom I want to have as well. But let me go back to the very first thing I said, and then we can take questions. I spent nearly 30 years building the foundation for this business. Okay, I didn't just wake up one day and say, I want to be a coach. I want to be a consultant, and then go get certified and not know what I was talking about. I invested many, many years investing in people in two specific careers since my early 20s. So by the time I turned 50, I had earned 30 years of leadership and management and working with people into my life in order for people to be willing to make that investment. So that might be a little bit depressing to some of you who are younger and think, I don't have 30 years. Well, I didn't know I was going to do this when I was 55, but I earned the ability to build this business when I was 52 because of what I'd done for 30 years. So you've got to be willing to build the investment and be ready for something you may have never thought you were going to do.
And so a lot of the business owners that we have here, they're younger businesses. And on top of just day-to-day logistics and QuickBooks and just trying to keep their head above water and their business above water here, how important would you say that initial investment in leadership, management is when it comes to growing their business?
My simple answer to that is make sure you're investing in yourself. Every single one of you are exhausted. You wake up every morning and you're grinding. You're working 2 jobs. You have 2 companies, whatever you're doing. Don't neglect the investment in yourself. If you neglect the investment in yourself, and specifically I mean spiritually, your soul, secondarily, your family. I run into dozens of so-called entrepreneurs who have lost their families. They've lost their husband or wife. They've lost their kids because they were trying to pursue something. And if what you're doing is solely to produce the ability to get rich, you will fail, and you will lose your family, and you will lose your kids, and you'll lose all those things. And that's why when I told you earlier, I have it kind of where I want it. There was a time, and I met with someone just the other day who was asking me, what should be an appropriate goal for me? And I said, well, what's the intention? What are you after? Are you after money so you can do something? Or are you after what stirs your soul and helps other people? And if we're not doing things to help other people, then eventually that investment's going to fail. And most of you who are in this entrepreneurial world want people to enjoy what you do, whether it's a bagel. Where's the New York bagel guy? Are you the New York bagel guy? One of my first food customers was a company called the New York Bagel Company in Oklahoma, and they actually boiled their bagels too. So did it right. But you have to take care of yourself and invest in yourself. And I think that's the most important thing. And when you're working with people that might be considering investing in you or in your organization, and they see that you've got a great business, but you haven't taken care of yourself and your health is bad and your mental state is bad, they're not going to invest in you. It seems obvious, but you got to take care of yourself. The worst thing to do would be to have a successful business generating all kinds of revenue, but by the time you're 45 or 55 or 60, you die of a heart attack because you didn't take care of yourself.
I saw a lot of heads nod when you said, we're exhausted, right? Mm-hmm. But making the time to take care of yourself. Yep. I'm going to open it up to questions. Any questions for Patrick?
Well, we can see that your dedication, your passion to the business that you do. What has been another component of the success of your business?
Another component?
Yes, I see the passion and the enthusiasm and the hard work. Yeah. If you were to pinpoint another factor to the component of the success of your business, what would that be?
That's a longer answer than we have time for. But it boils down to me sitting down October 20th, 1990, and writing out a script for my life that I have in my briefcase that I carry with me every day. It was written on a yellow legal pad. Some of you have no idea what a yellow legal pad is, but we didn't have computers back then. And I was 22 years old, and I wrote a script for my life. And you hear me refer to these things often. The script followed my faith, my family, my friendships, my finances, and my fitness, and a call to servant leadership. And I wrote my narrative. I could literally take it out of my briefcase that's back there. I carry it everywhere I go, as I just stated. And I am a big believer in Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's my second most important book of my life. And I think being proactive and beginning with the end in mind and writing your own story and being willing to write your own story, you'll be amazed the power of how you subconsciously program yourself to go after the things that you dared to dream for. And so people ask me that all the time. And I say, well, go write your story. And I will tell you this. I've been asked by individuals if I'd mentor them. And every individual who comes up to me, asks me that question, I'll say, you go read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and you do the work and bring it back to me, and I'll mentor you. Over the last 25 years, would you like to guess how many young people have come back to me with that homework done, ready to be mentored? Less than 5, which is the upper quartile of what I call the 3% or the 10% of people. So when you ask me what else is a factor, it was being willing to sit down in that room in my house when our firstborn son was on his way and write that story. And I can take you again, third time I'll say this, to that paper sitting in my briefcase, and everything in that narrative has happened, with the exception of one thing, and it was an income goal that as a 20-year-old, 22-year-old, I was a little bit stupid. But other than that, I don't think there's enough people willing to bravely dream about themselves and then see how long it'll take. So when you think about it, that was written in 1990. That's how many years I've been working on this narrative. So the question I would have is, what's your narrative? Because many of us are responding to a narrative that was given to us. I was raised in poverty. and a family of alcoholics and busted marriages. So was I going to take that narrative or was I going to change it? And even some of you are doing what you do out of a response to a narrative you have inherited rather than a narrative you've chosen to own about yourself. So I'll start going down another road if we don't stop there.
Thank you. Great book. I have enjoyed reading that book, and I agree with you. It's a book that teaches you a lot, not only for your professional life, but also for your personal life.
Absolutely.
I have another question. We know that we all make mistakes, and that is part of our learning process, right? If you were to share with us what has been one of the mistakes of the learning experience that have made a difference for your business, what would that be?
Not letting go of people that needed to be let go quickly and immediately. In business, that has been one of the biggest mistakes I've made. When I knew in my gut, not going to work, I should have called it, and it burnt me.
You as an individual, you're a founder, and basically you're the brand.
Right.
You are the brand.
That's right.
And for a lot of us that are trying to build businesses, I've heard all the time that, we have to become the brand. We are, the face of the organization, so and so. But eventually my goal is to make my organization be independent and function independent of me. That's my goal. How do I marry, trying to become the brand, of the organization, but at the same time detach myself from the brand, And in your case, you are the brand.
Right.
So how are you planning on succession, or
Right.
detaching yourself from your operation?
I'll start at the back of your question. I'm not planning for succession. I'm planning to run this until I decide I'm done, okay? So that's not even in the playbook for me. As far as creating the brand, I would say one thing. The brand will only be as excellent as you are as the person developing the brand. And so if you're developing a widget and there's an excellence in your life that goes into developing the widget, then there'll be an excellence in that brand. Your brand will never exceed or surpass the excellence of the individual developing it. And so if you as an individual are not at the very best you can be, and you're not at your highest level of performance in every area of your life, then you will not be able to build a brand that people will want to be a part of and adhere to. And if you want to, the classic case of this is the quality of people that started Chick-fil-A. I mean, if you go hang out with the people that started Chick-fil-A, these are quality people spiritually, emotionally, in maturation and everything. And they have created a brand that people go to. I mean, I've always joked over off the loop, Wendy's ought to just go buy chicken nuggets in the morning and start selling them out of their drive-thru because people would start going there now. But the quality of your product is a reflection of the quality of person you are. So that's how you have to build your brand. And if you separate who you are from the widget, at least the widget now displays the quality of person who produced it. So I can't make that separation, but other people can.
Not really a question, but I feel pretty much I speak for everybody here. As our former mayor, I just want to thank you for everything you did for small businesses and keeping our doors open as much as we could during the pandemic.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you very much. I'll send all the emails I got to you. Any other questions? Yes, Roy. Be nice, Roy.
Got it. So you've got a really wide-ranging perspective. I'm just curious, from your perspective, being a small business owner in Midland, does that look different than other places? Or is that just a fallacy that we're really similar to other communities?
That's a yes-no answer, I think. I do believe that small business has some unique challenges here that you don't have in some of the cities I go to, like a Tulsa or in Oklahoma City, obviously a Dallas or something like that. I can't put my finger sometimes on those challenges as much as I can put my finger on the attitude about those challenges. And so I think we're beginning to turn a corner, and there's a data reason why I think we're turning a corner. I asked a question about 15 years ago, when does a city stop being dependent on one industry to generate everything? And there's actually a data number that's about 150,000 in population. When I asked the question, when I moved here, Midland was about 100,000 people in 99. Well, we're right around that 150,000 mark. And so you're seeing that some of these things are beginning to change. And I also think there's an attitude that comes with that. I've been doing some research recently. And by the way, we talk about how young Midland is. What's fascinating is the power young people have here that they still don't realize. There are more registered voters in Midland between the ages of 18 and 49 than there are from 49 to death. But the percentage of those who show up to vote is lowest, 18 to 49. But that actually changed this last election cycle, and it went up by 3 points. So I think there's a shift beginning to take place. I hope that's sort of the question, but it's an attitudinal shift that has to bring on a cultural shift where everybody's mindset begins to say, this is a place worth investing in. So I think the challenges are a little bit different, but I think it's more attitudinal, and I think that's beginning to change.
Yeah, that's well said. And it's 9 o'clock here, but I'm going to finish off with one question here, Patrick.
I was leaving. Yeah.
I know. Well, you touched on, we do have a fairly young population here. Our median age is 31. To put that in perspective, that's younger than Austin. That's younger than Oklahoma City. That's younger than Dallas. That's younger than Houston, Denver.
Yep.
The list goes on and on and on. And then our largest population, 3 years old.
Yep.
And so when I meet with a lot of our business owners, we've got a lot of Gen X leaders, and then we are starting to see more and more Gen Z workers come into the workforce.
Right.
And then there's a little bit of a gap. And there's some generational differences when it comes to how you do business.
Right.
There's growing pains that come with
Is there a question
growing.
coming
Yes.
here?
Yeah. Okay. I know. Maybe should I go into?
I'm just asking you to ask me a question.
Okay. How would you say working through those generational growing pains from a management perspective?
Well, I will say this. This younger group we're talking about, you need to freaking shut up and get after it. You need to start getting involved in politics. You need to start getting involved in the issues, because the generation before you who gave us the Midland we have today were a bunch of people your age who decided they were going to give us the Midland we have today. Now, many of you are saying, well, this is not the Midland we want. Well, they created the Midland they wanted when they were in their 30s, and they thought Dennis the Menace Park was a great thing, and it was the only thing out here if you grew up here, and they gave us what we have. It's harder to change a city today than it was back then, but if all this generation who outnumbers the forefathers don't get busy and get after it, just decide, I'm just going to Dallas, I'm just going to Houston, I'm going to Frisco, whatever the case might be, then it's going to be on you. And so it's time to just stop saying there's nothing to do. It's time to stop saying this is a hard place to live. It's time to stop taking all the excuses about my property values are so high. All blah, blah, blah. Just get involved. Just do something. And the school issue, the whole issue about what are we going to do about schools? Get involved. What are we going to do about this? Get involved. Just get involved. People say, why'd you run for mayor? Because you're stupid? That's the obvious reason, but you have to get involved. Run for office, run for school board, volunteer for things, get your business involved in these things. I'm tired of listening to this younger group who's an average of 32 making excuses for inaction, because you wouldn't even have a Midland if the previous 32-year-olds didn't hand you a Midland. So get after it.
That starts with a yellow legal pad, it sounds like. Well, thank you so much, Patrick. And thank you guys for showing up. We're sorry you're running a little bit late. Just a few announcements here. We want to thank a special shout out to 40 Wolves, who are doing all of the technology behind this. You're going to be able to watch this video back. Patrick and John, they both said a lot of really good things. We'll say you want to go back to the office and reflect on a few of those things. You can go back and stream it. And then also you can follow Founders Blend on social media. If you scan that QR code, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and then also we've got information online where you can sign up to be a business presenter, get involved. You can donate, sponsor, present. If you want to be a community volunteer, we're always looking for that as well. That involvement starts with just scanning that QR code, and we hope to see you here next month. Our next meeting will be, again, second Wednesday of each month, so June 14th. Same time, same place. We are still looking for our business presenters. So if you are interested, please let us know. In the meantime, grab a cup of coffee on your way out, pass around your business cards. And we want to give these hats here, because it's West Texas. So this is our love language is hats. And this is for you, John, and for you, Patrick, as well. Let's give our speakers one more hand. Thank Thank you guys so much, and we will see you next month.